What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by pitcherlist.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Tuesday, August 5th. We'll start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league, kicking things off with the bad news as starting pitcher Nick Lodolo was placed on the 15-day IL with a blister on his finger. Those are always unfortunate because they can be finicky, so hopefully Lodolo can return in the minimum 2 weeks for the Reds as they push to make the playoffs. In a corresponding move, Yosfer Zulueta was recalled from the minors. He'll contribute out of the bullpen. And our other IL placement involves starting pitcher Mike Soroka, who was placed on the 15-day IL with a shoulder strain as expected. He was pulled early from his Cubs debut. Unfortunately, hopefully he can also return in the minimum time because he was a huge addition to the Cubs rotation and will be counted on down the stretch to help the Cubs before they make the playoffs and ultimately in the playoffs. In a corresponding move, relief pitcher Nate Pearson was optioned to the minors. In terms of transactions, starting pitcher J.P. Sears was optioned to the minors after allowing 5 runs in his Padres debut. Pretty confusing considering they just spent a lot of prospect capital to acquire him. I know Mason Miller was the headliner of that acquisition, but Sears has been very solid throughout his major league career, especially pitching for the A's. So a bit curious to see the Padres option him after just one start. I expect him to be back later this year, especially because the Padres don't have a ton of starting rotation depth, but nonetheless still a curious move. Relief pitcher Sean Reynolds was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move. Next, we have outfielder Aaron Judge, who was activated from the 10-day IL after missing time with a flexor strain. He received a PRP injection a couple days ago, and he'll be limited to DH duties for the Yankees until his elbow fully recovers, which means Giancarlo Stanton will hit the bench, which he did in Judge's first game back. But the Yankees are going to have to find some way to get Stanton into the lineup as his 140 WRC plus on the season is the second best on the team. So, which trails only Aaron Judge. So I think the Yankees are going to do their best to get Stanton into that lineup, even if it means playing him in the outfield. In a corresponding move, Austin Slater was placed on the 10-day IL with a hamstring strain. Next, we have second baseman Luke Keeschel, who was activated from the 60-day IL after missing a lot of time with a fractured forearm. He was pretty dope prior to the injury, batting .368 with 5 steals and a .207 WRC plus. Most notably, he walked 19% of the time with an 8% walk rate. But in his return, even more dope, he hit his first career home run in his return to the lineup. Keeschel is expected to be the Twins' everyday second baseman moving forward, and he should be rostered in the majority of leagues based on how well he's been performing in the majors thus far. In a corresponding move, Deshaun Kiersey Jr. was optioned to the minors. And lastly, starting pitcher Anthony Molina was recalled from the minors to start for the Rockies versus the Blue Jays. He tossed 5 innings, allowing 9 hits and 7 earned runs while walking 1, striking out just 2. He allowed 5 home runs in this one, inducing 8 whiffs with 17% CSW across 83 pitches, and is not somebody that we should be targeting in fantasy. And in terms of news, starting pitcher Cade Cavalli is expected to be recalled from the minors to start versus the A's. He is making his return from Tommy John surgery. He hasn't pitched in the majors since 2022, so excited to see what Cavalli can do, especially because I just met some of his family members over the weekend, so very interesting. More extended family, but still, nonetheless, I'm rooting for Cade Cavalli here, regardless of my acquaintances. Now we can take a look at our notable performances from Tuesday, a day in which we had a full slate of 15 games. We'll start it off with our hitters, leading off with catcher Shea, who helped the A's to win in our nation's capital, going 5 for 6 with 4 runs, a double, 3 home runs, and 3 runs batted in. He's up to 22 homers on the year now. First one traveled 402 feet at 105 miles per hour. Second one went 387 feet at 103 miles per hour. And the third one went 419 feet at 108 miles per hour. And I discussed Bangeliers last week, so I'll keep this brief, but he had a notable performance on Tuesday that's definitely worth mentioning. In his first career game in the leadoff spot, Bangeliers went deep 3 times in a game for the first time in his career since April of last year. I'll point out again that Bangeliers has married prodigious power with a huge decrease in strikeout rate, making his career high .261 batting average definitely more sustainable. And actually, after yesterday's 5 for 6 performance, he's batting .272 on the season. And then with that and the lower strikeout rate and him continuing to be display incredible power. He's become a much better overall and more consistent hitter. Langeliers, in my mind, is without a doubt a top 5 offensive catcher in baseball. Next, first baseman Spencer Steer helped the Reds to win on the north side of Chicago, going 2 for 4 with a run, a home run, and 4 runs batted in. It was his 13th homer of the year, and it traveled 377 feet at 98 miles per hour. I wasn't a huge believer in Steer's impressive rookie season, in which he batted 271 with 23 homers and 15 steals, but he proved me wrong somewhat last year with a 20 homer, 25 steal campaign, only dragged down by a dismal 225 batting average. Nonetheless, Steer remained fantasy relevant due to his power speed combo, and yet I still wasn't really buying it this year, and I feel a bit vindicated as he's continued to regress. Obviously, I don't root against anybody unless they're on the Dodgers, but Steer is definitely somebody that I was avoiding in fantasy drafts, and I think I was right to do so. His batted ball metrics are not great this year, especially. They continue to decline as his 5% barrel rate and 30% hard hit rate leave a lot to be desired, and his contact skills have gotten worse throughout his career. I think we're looking at someone in Steer who could be forced into more of a utility role next year for the Reds, depending on who they add to the offense in the offseason. Lastly, we have outfielder Brandon Marsh, who helped the Phillies to win against the Orioles, going 2 for 4 with 2 runs, a double, a home run, and 2 runs batted in. It was his 6th homer of the year, and it traveled 397 feet at 104 miles per hour. Marsh entered the fantasy radar in 2023 after he batted 277 with 12 homers and 10 steals, and was even more successful from a fantasy standpoint last year with a 249 average to go with 16 homers and 19 steals. Marsh hasn't been able to replicate either of those campaigns this year, but he has made notable improvements that hint at a more sustainable success in the future. Marsh has struggled with strikeouts throughout his career, entering 2025 with a career 33% strikeout rate, but he's worked on his contact skills and has struck out less than 25% of the time this year, which combined with his usually high BABIP, his career 369 mark is one of the highest of all time, makes him a legit average contributor. And if he can get back to pulling the ball regularly, Marsh will tap back into his power and really take off. We've already witnessed that a little bit in the second half, as he's already doubled his homer total from the first half in 169 fewer plate appearances, and he could be a target in deep leagues down the stretch as long as you only play him versus lefties, just like the Phillies do. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Tuesday, check out the daily Batters Box article over on PitcherList.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Zebby Matthews, who helped the Twins to win in Detroit, tossing 5 innings, allowing 5 hits and 1 run while walking 1 and striking out 6. He induced 12 whiffs with 30% CSW across 86 pitches, and our secondary streaming pick of the day came through, holding one of the best teams in the American League to just 1 run across 5 frames. Matthews got away with a lot of heaters in the zone, returning 10 foul balls and 11 called strikes, but that'll happen when you mix deception with upper 90s velocity, as well as pairing it with a deadly slider that returned 7 whiffs and 36% CSW with equal success against all batters. Against lefties, Matthews incorporated a changeup to little success, just 1 whiff and 10% CSW, but the intent is there with locations low and arm side. To keep Matthews in at bats, he's found strikes with his cutter and curveball, made him efficient enough to get through 5 frames. And Zebby's got dope stuff and a deep arsenal. I'm looking forward to his future in the MLB in this league. I don't like when people use the MLB. I can't believe I just said it on a recorded podcast. Nonetheless, that being said, with Matthews, I don't think he's polished enough to target in fantasy with the Yankees in New York up next. And lastly, we have Emmett Sheehan, who helped the Dodgers to win against the Cardinals, tossing 5 shutout innings, allowing 4 hits and 1 walk while striking out 5, inducing 9 whiffs with 33% CSW across 76 pitches. And our main streaming pick of the day also came through, as Sheehan took advantage of a solid matchup and held the Redbirds silent for 5 innings with a similar route to success as Matthews. He threw fastballs upstairs, returning 8 foul balls and 8 called strikes, ultimately producing 31% CSW, as the location helped the pitch with 18 inches of IVB play up. Sheehan's slider was his best offering on Tuesday, tearing up righties to the tune of 5 whiffs and 40% CSW, while his changeup was spotted arm side against lefties all game for a pair of whiffs and 25% CSW. The missing piece was a secondary strike pitch to make him more efficient, but his curveball failed to land in the zone. When it did, though, it returned a called strike 3 out of 8 times. So more consistency with the hook could make Sheehan a complete pitcher moving forward. The command combined with the stuff on a winning ball club makes Sheehan a must add and a clear target with the Angels in LA up next. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Tuesday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Justin Topa recorded his first save with a perfect ninth. Cole Sands pitched the eighth in that one, so it looks like Topa may be the favorite for saves in Minnesota with Yohan Duran and Griffin Jax out of town. Next, Cade Smith recorded his fourth save with a perfect ninth. He continues to fill in with Emmanuel Clase on administrative leave. And lastly, Phil Maton recorded his third save with a scoreless ninth. He could possibly be taking over the Rangers closer role with Robert Garcia blowing each of his last two save opportunities. And in terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or blow their saves, Josh Hader pitched a hitless ninth up by 4. He hadn't pitched since Friday, so while the game was still close, this could be considered a maintenance outing. Devin Williams allowed 2 runs while pitching the 8th in a tie game to take his 4th loss. He's been really struggling recently. Definitely keep your eye on the Yankees bullpen. Pete Fairbanks pitched a perfect ninth up by 4. Kendall Graveman allowed 2 runs while pitching the 7th in a tie game. No clue who the closer is in Arizona. It's probably one of the lefties and not Graveman. And lastly, Robert Suarez got the final 2 outs of regulation before pitching a hitless 10th to earn his 4th win when the Padres took the lead in the 11th. But if you'd like more information on relief pitchers, check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on pitcherlist.com. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now we'll look forward to Wednesday, August 6th, a day in which we'll have a full slate of 15 games. My matchup of the day is Ranger Suarez versus Trevor Rogers, a pair of southpaws that have been on absolute fire recently. Rogers' ERA is below 2. He's been cooking for the Orioles, and Ranger Suarez is always very streaky, and right now he's on one of those good streaks. This should be a fun matchup to watch. In terms of probable starters, we've got 8 guys in our auto starts tier, including Suarez. We've also got Joe Ryan in Detroit, Robbie Ray in Pittsburgh, and George Kirby against the White Sox. Our probably starts tier has 4 guys, and our questionable starts tier has 7, and that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Tyler Anderson versus the Rays. Rays lineup isn't too scary, and Tyler Anderson's changeup is dope from time to time, so hopefully he can find some success there. It is outside of the Rays home stadium, so should be a pretty solid start there from Anderson. I'd also keep an eye out for Jose Quintana in Atlanta. That Braves lineup is struggling this year, and they are without Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna Jr. right now, so Quintana with his sinker changeup approach may be able to find some success as well. In terms of hitter suggestions, I'd look at Blue Jays and Rockies hitters in Coors. Pretty self-explanatory. Best hitters ballpark in baseball. We'll see Kevin Gossman square off against Kyle Freeland in that one. I'd also look at Astros and Marlins hitters in Lone Depot Park. We'll see Spencer Arrighetti take on Jansen Junk. Arrighetti's returning from a lengthy IL stint, while Junk has found a lot of success this year that seems pretty unlucky or pretty lucky and unsustainable. So this could be an offensive explosion here from the Astros and Marlins hitters. I'd also target A's and Nationals hitters in Nationals Park. We'll see Jeffrey Springs take on Cade Cavalli. I know I talked about how I'm rooting for Cavalli, but this is his first outing in the majors since 2022. So not sure how successful that's going to be. And on Spring's side, he's not great against left-handed batters, despite being a southpaw himself because of his changeup focused approach. So it's possible the Nationals hitters take advantage of him there. And lastly, I'll target Padres and Diamondbacks hitters in Chase Field. We'll see Nestor Cortez square off against Anthony DeSclafani. Famously, Cortez really struggled earlier in the season. So hopefully he can return in his Padres debut and find some success, but I'm not banking on it. And DeSclafani it's been a while since he's found success, and he's recently been forced into the rotation in Arizona, and I don't expect him to have a gem of a matchup here or a gem of an outing here. So I'm targeting this NL West matchup. And now we'll close things out with our relievers to watch. Cade Smith is pitched on back-to-back days, so expect Hunter Gaddis to get a save for the Guardians on Wednesday. And Devin Williams is pitched on back-to-back days as well, but so have both Luke Weaver and Camilo Doval. So David Bednar should be the top option for saves for the Yankees on Wednesday. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.